If you've seen my first video, you know a little bit about my personal account and some of my what I believe to be just a starting point of these events that I'm describing in this video. In this video, I'd like to discuss something specific, very specific, very unique to this experience. And anyone who has experienced what's known as gangstalking or personalized harassment on this level, and if you have experienced, then you know that you've experienced it unless you're very early into it, because it becomes extremely apparent at a certain point. But what I'm going to be talking about is something called noise harassment, or I've seen the term noise campaign, and that's a pretty good term for it, I think. But essentially, it has to do with sound. Sound is, every day we hear sounds and things in our background, and it doesn't mean anything. You'll hear cars and horns, or you might hear a neighbor doing a particular thing, checking the mail, going out and getting in his car, bike ride. It could be anything. But sounds have a context, and when I talk about noise campaigns and you hear other gang stalking victims talk about noise harassment, they're going to be, and when I talk about it, I'm referring to it in a very particular context. You hear noise all the time, but noise has a context in everyday life. But these sounds that are being referred to, they can be ordinary sounds, but you can make an ordinary sound become weaponized to a person or a specific person if you sensitize that person to a particular sound at a certain time. So what happens in these experiences is that, and this has been part of my personal experience, and it's very disturbing, very scary. It lets you know that you are not, you don't have privacy. It lets you know that you are in fact being, somebody's got their eye on you. That's basically what it lets you know, and it's very sinister in nature. And I have felt this before personally. I've had this happen before personally, and it still happens every day, in fact. I've gotten somewhat used to it, and I know what sounds I recognize. That's because, in my personal case, I've been sensitized to certain sounds, and this is a very trademark thing in all cases of gangstalking, all cases of personalized harassment. And that's why it's personalized, is because it doesn't mean anything special to anybody else, but because it's weaponized to you, only you perceive it in that way. So the sound may be an ordinary everyday sound, but it's synchronized and it's personalized to you in a way through timing and things like that to let you know that somebody is, maybe they could be outside your house, they could be you could be go to a certain room in your house and hear a certain sound, a certain time of day every day. That's just an example, but it's always personalized, because if it wasn't so personal and personalized just to you, then it would be completely ineffectual. And it would be very believable. If you were to go tell somebody something and it was easily explained in a non-personalized way, this whole thing would be shut down quickly, because it would be so easy to grasp what was being said. But because it is so directed and so personalized, it's by nature and by design incredibly difficult to grasp unless you are sensitized yourself to that sound and to that event. So, and anybody who's experienced that knows exactly what I'm saying. But if you haven't experienced it, you can think of it in terms of, if you were driving down a certain street a certain time of day, and you noticed somebody had left stale bread laying out on a certain curb side of the road, and let's say there was a very oddly dressed, ominous looking person standing or walking right there every day at a certain time, and there's stale bread littered on the ground near where they're walking, but they don't seem connected to it. And then one day, you go to get in your car to go for a ride, and the same stale bread has been littered all over the windshield of your car. Now, you're going to think, well, this is kind of, at the very least, this is bizarre, but it's also threatening, because you've seen this before, so you associated this littered bread with this ominous person on the curb, but now it's on your car, so clearly it's on one of your own personal possessions. And then later that day, the bread's not there anymore when you pass by in the car, but it's on your windshield now. That is an example, and there's probably better examples out there, but that's an example to help conceptualize what sensitization and personalization is all about, in terms of using ordinary everyday sounds and objects and actually weaponizing them psychologically against somebody. As stated earlier, this has been used against me many times. There's things that get repeated nearly on an everyday basis. There's things that happen for a period of time and are very consistent, and very specific, and have been used in this way. And this is a trademark thing, very, very standard in any gangstalking or any harassment experience. And this is very powerful, and letting you know non-verbally, without telling you, that you are indeed being watched, and somebody's got their eye on you. And it's very effective, and can be very disturbing and disruptive, especially if you don't recognize what's actually happening at first. So that's my explanation of noise campaign, and how everyday sounds and objects, normal everyday things, can actually be weaponized against a person and used to psychologically and personally harass that person in a very directed